Marlins swept that 3-game series in Atlanta. First arrival here for the Braves, and their lineup looks this way. For Bobby Cox, Omar Infante is at second base. He leads it off. Yunel Escobar, the talented Cuban, is a shortstop. Chipper Jones always hurts the Marlins. Garrett Anderson is just off the disabled list. Martin Prado is in place of Casey Kotchman at first. Jeff Francoeur is hot right now in right field. David Ross behind the plate, as Brian McCann is still on the disabled list. Jordan Schaefer, the rookie center fielder, and Derek Lowe hits ninth.
You know, it's amazing, and we have to keep bringing it up, but the Marlins now have gone 18 straight games without a starter getting a win. So hopefully Graham Taylor can break that string, making his first appearance against the Atlanta Braves. You know, in his last outing at Wrigley Field against the Cubs, he went 5 innings, gave up 5 hits and 2 runs. When he left that game, he had a 5-2 lead, but unfortunately did not get the win, got a no decision. So he needs to work quickly. I think we've seen when he has a nice pace going, he's much better in the strike zone. When he changes speeds, and you know, first time he's faced the Braves, first time they've seen him.
And the improvement from his first start to his second start was huge for Taylor.
And hopefully we see that same going into tonight. Check out the defense. There's Jeremy Hermida. Cameron Maben will patrol center field. Cody in right. Bonifacio, Hanley, Uggs, and Kantu around the infield with John Baker handling Graham Taylor.
Bonifacio at the third base. And here is Omar Infante. When the Marlins saw the Braves back in early April, actually about mid-April, Kelly Johnson was in the leadoff spot, and the Marlins used to seeing Johnson up there at second base, but Johnson has slumped. Infante has thrived in the leadoff spot, so he's in there for Bobby Cox. And Taylor's first pitch is down low with Mike Riley, the veteran umpire, calling balls and strikes. So Infante, Escobar, and Chipper. He's still hot from the leadoff spot. 11 for his last 25.
Well, he's one of those real versatile players, too. He started games at second base, at third base, and at shortstop. Good swing, good solid swing. And, you know, Kelly Johnson with his struggles right now, Omar Infante doing a good job at the top of the order.
Here is Escobar, the excitable shortstop. His bat has started to heat up. He's 6 for his last 12.
All right, something's got to bend here. We've seen teams, the Cubs, the Reds, we've seen them run. Bobby Cox has seen his team steal 4 bases all year. They do not run a lot. So we'll see how he plays it against the Marlins.
Yeah, the Braves don't run a lot, and they don't hit the ball out of the park a lot, which is not a great combination. You'd like to have an either or.
Yeah, one or the other.
Garrett Anderson, who was supposed to supply some power, has been on the disabled list. They really have missed McCann behind the plate and in the batting order. Cody Ross sporting the high socks out there to make the catch.
Whatever it takes to break out of a little slump, you might change something on the uniform. And Cody Ross decides to hike the pants up and show a lot of sock. So he's going with that look tonight.
I'm all for that.
Yeah, that's the old time look.
Now, if the Marlins could just get Chipper Jones to wear his socks high, maybe that would change their fortune against him, because they haven't had a whole lot in his long and distinguished career. With Infante at first, Chipper takes outside. He's hitting a mortal 280, though. This is not Chipper-like. Usually he's up around 400 this time of year.
Yeah, not the vintage Chipper Jones.
Boy, Taylor threw a pretty good pitch. And he kind of looks in at Mike Riley. Graham Taylor, all of 24, third major league start, pitching to a guy that might end up in Cooperstown in Chipper Jones. So oftentimes Chipper would get the benefit of the doubt, and he cranks one to right center field and deep. Maben can't get it, glances off his glove, Cody Ross puts his arms up and says the ball was touched, and you know what? It was. And that's going to cost the Braves a run, at least temporarily. Chuck Merriweather was out there to make the call.
Well, that's a good play by Cody to let the umpires know that that ball was touched. I thought the ball was going to be caught. We've seen Cameron Maybin chase some balls down, but we've also seen him take wrong routes, going back the wrong direction. That ball landed before it got to the wall. I thought he was going to make that play. He did not. There's the ball touched, and Cody Ross puts his arms up right away. So that's a good play by Cody to see that and then let the umpires know as quickly as possible.
Yeah, because that keeps Infante from scoring. He only gets 2 bases, as does the batter. And Taylor goes after Garrett Anderson. This is a big piece of the Braves puzzle, is trying to get production out of an aging Garrett Anderson.
You know, there was a time that we would see Matt Diaz in the lineup in left field against a lefty, but he struggled against soft tossing lefties. And Anderson just off the disabled list. They need to get him going.
Infield's back, and Anderson hits a chopper. Kantu going to flip to Taylor. A run scores, and the Braves are off to a 1-0 lead.
Believe it or not, that's the first RBI this year for the veteran Garrett Anderson.
That is hard to believe. He was a guy and has been a guy who is an RBI machine in the big leagues in his 14 years with the Angels. Still an out to get here for Taylor with Prado at the plate and Chipper at third. Prado going with the puka shell look tonight. And he strokes one out to left field. Hermida is there, makes the catch. A first inning run for the Braves. Marlins go to work when we return. Eric Lowe this year, and they got youth and speed up top with Emilio Bonifacio and Cameron Maybin. Hanley's hot. Jorge Cantu has been a horse so far. Bakes in the 5 spot. That's a little different wrinkle with Ugla sliding down to hit 6th. Hermida, Ross, and Taylor in the 9 position.
The Marlins saw this veteran right-hander in Atlanta, and Derek Lowe went 5 innings. He gave up 7 hits and 4 runs. You got a no decision. The Marlins won that game 10-4. When he's on, lots of sinkers, gets a lot of ground balls. In that game, he walked 5. He didn't have the real sharp control.
And so Derek Lowe and Emilio Bonifacio. This is Bonifacio's kind of guy. A guy that keeps the ball low in the zone.
You know it is, but it was in Atlanta when things started to turn in the wrong direction for Bonifacio.
One hop Escobar. Very good shortstop. One out.
Good pick by Escobar. There's the defense for the Braves. Garrett Anderson, Jordan Schaefer, the young center fielder. Frank Gore, you're familiar with him. Chipper, Escobar, Infante, and Prado around that infield with David Ross, the former Gator, behind the plate.
He's a former a lot of things.
Yeah. You know, I was talking about Bonifacio. He was 3 for 16 in that series in Atlanta with 8 strikeouts, and that's when everybody started to pound him with high fastballs.
So Maben, Bonifacio's been able to keep his head above water. For Maben, that's been a struggle right now at 208 with a homer and 3 RBIs. One of the benefits Bonifacio has had that Maben has not is a solid spot in the lineup, whereas Maben's kind of been bounced around a little bit in the 8-hole. Has hit second as well, and he lays off the sinker. It's 2-1.
And as Niner said on Marlins Live, it is hard to hit 8th, even harder for a young hitter. So maybe this can get him going. He needs to get the aggressiveness back and the confidence back. Hard. Yeah, look at the bottom fall out of that sinker.
Hard psychologically to be in that 8th spot, but here he is hitting second.
Watch this ball just dive down, and Maben swings over it.
That's the calling card of Derek Lowe. One of the first things you always look for when you get a Derek Lowe start is the ground ball fly ball ratio. Pitchers in baseball who get the most ground balls, and Lowe is usually in the top 5. He's not right now. He's 11th, and that's for all of baseball. Roy Halladay is the best right now in the game in Toronto. Count full, 3-2.
Well, Roy Halladay's 5-1 with those Blue Jays.
And Maben walks. You know who else is on that list? Gil Mesh is second. Dana Evelyn is third. And Josh Johnson is 4th in baseball right now.
Atta babe, JJ.
Our weather is brought to you by Miccosukee Resort and Gaming. Come play our way. Rich Waltz, Tommy Hutton will be joined in the 2nd inning by Ken Burns, who, of course, in 1990 had that great documentary Baseball. We'll talk about that.
Here's the rule of thumb, and it's obviously easier for us to talk about than when you're standing 60 feet 6 inches away when you're facing a sinker ball pitcher.
Hanley strokes one up the middle. Base hit. Maben is flying around second, but stops and gets back. And so the Marlins have runners at first and second.
The rule of thumb, go after the first pitch and hit it right back up the middle. Now, what you have to try to do, first of all, that first pitch is a good one to hit sometimes. That one wasn't the nasty sinker. Hanley didn't try to pull it right back up the middle. If the ball starts out right at your knees, generally it's going to sink out of the strike zone. So you have to try to be patient with that.
Jorge Cantu now. Kantu had a good series against the Braves. Excellent speed on there right now. And obviously Lowe is looking for a ground ball. And Mike Riley calls that a strike. It's 0-1. Lowe's not an easy guy to umpire with all the movement he's got.
Yeah, a lot of movement.
Kantu, deep left field. Get out of here. 3-run shot. 2-run lead.
Well, I tell you what, Derek Lowe also doesn't give up a lot of long balls with that good sinker that he has going. It's only the 2nd home run he's allowed this year. Jorge Cantu goes out and gets it and hooks it deep into left center. He was just 1 for 10 in the series against Cincinnati. Jorge Cantu, home run number 8, RBIs 26, 27, and 28.
When the Marlins have needed it the most in the last 2 years, it has been Kantu who has delivered. He's been the guy this year as well. 28 RBIs now. You saw that list. Here's Baker. And Lowe, whose worst outing of the year was against the Marlins, falls behind 3-1. Breaking ball misses down low to Baker. So Ken Burns is coming up, Tommy. I've always wanted to talk with him. That baseball documentary was hailed as one of the greatest documentaries ever made.
I have that on my bookshelf at home. Nice to pull out, watch a segment, watch a decade or a...
Well, and we need to ask him about the extra inning as well, because he has updated that documentary. We'll do that in the next inning as Derek Lowe. You see the no decision against the Marlins. There were no long balls in that one. But here, Jorge Kantu has blasted his 8th.
And the ball game at Turner Field, Dan Uggla got a couple of big hits off Derek Lowe. Had 3 RBIs off him in that game.
Baker pulls it foul. What do you think about this wrinkle in the lineup? Baker hitting 5th.
I think it's fine. I agree with Freddie. You have to tinker. It's your prerogative as a manager, and hopefully he can get Maben going. Because I really do think if Cameron Maben does not get going, he's got to go somewhere and play and get his confidence back up. Because right now he's a little tentative. He did have a good at bat drawing the walk from Lowe. He's a little tentative, and the confidence just isn't there.
Full count. And Lowe strikes out Baker.
And it also adds a little more speed at the top of the order. And I think John Baker can handle just about any place that you put him.
That's a good way to put it. He's very adaptable.
Yes.
All right, here's Uggla. Now, his plight has been an interesting one. We saw Uggla go through a week of line drives at people, warning track shots, diving catches. And then all of a sudden he would have a bad night, strike out a couple times, then hit a couple more line drives. Last night was a good example. I mean, Uggla hit that shot to left that actually was trapped, but it was called an out. So even when he hits the ball hard, he's not getting hits.
He's had a couple of just misses, just gotten under pitches. It's one thing that Jim Presley, Marlins hitting instructor, has worked with Dan on. Try to stay on top a little bit more, and that just miss all of a sudden turns into a hard line drive.
Here's the 1-1. Chopper foul. And it's 1-2 to Uggla. If you've just happened by, the Marlins and the Braves are going to play 2 games in less than 24 hours. They play tonight, and then tomorrow a noon start.
Then the Marlins will be off to Denver.
And the Braves
will be off to Philadelphia.
Yeah, and the Braves
a shorter trip for Atlanta.
Not only go to Philadelphia, then they go on to New York to take on the Mets.
So as you pointed out, a big road trip for Bobby Cox and his ball club against the East.
Uggla fouls it off, and the Braves are banged up right now. They're missing McCann, who is the rock of this team behind the plate. I know Chipper's the big name, but McCann the last couple of years has kind of driven the engine, especially the offense. Uggla hits a towering shot, and Schaefer runs it down. 25 pitches for Derek Lowe, and this pitch ended up in the seats. When we return, Ken Burns. Dolphin Stadium, Marlins on top on a Jorge Cantu home run. Graham Taylor into his windup to Jeff Francoeur, and he sends a soft line drive into left field for a base hit. Throughout the season, Tommy and I get a chance to sit down and talk baseball with a lot of different people, and you are a fascinating one in your documentary, your film, Baseball. Ken Burns joins us here, and I'm sure you've been in a lot of ballparks and you've talked a lot about baseball, but it's the first time we've had a chance to have you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Okay. Now tell me, this is baseball. This was the 1994?
1994, yep.
You won just about every award you could. It was a spectacular. It's still on and it's still fresh. But you're updating it, right?
Right. Well, I always swore I'd never update a film, but there's been so much action, so much water under the baseball bridge that we had to actually go and update it. Think what's happened since 1994, all the action on the field, all the action off the field, from strikes and steroids to the Braves' dominance, the Yankees' dominance, the 2001, all of these great milestones, and we had to cover them, and that's what we're doing. And we were originally going to just do 2 hours, and now it's up to 4. We've got a top and a bottom of the 10th, yeah, because there's no way you can contain all of these complicated stories. And my Red Sox finally won the World Series. We had followed them along with the Dodgers in the National League throughout all the first 9 episodes. And they were always losing, so now I finally get to edit a scene in which they win.
So obviously, a baseball fan before you put this together. Did you become even more of a fan?
Oh, more. It was funny. I said to people when I began work on it back in 1990 after the Civil War series came out, this is the only film that I know in advance, something about the subject. And about 3 weeks in, I realized I knew nothing. That it was just, all the history. And I, since a little boy, I've loved every second of this game. This is the national pastime. It's the best sport that's ever been invented. But when we got into the depth of it, we just didn't appreciate how complicated, how wonderful the story is, how much it mirrors who we are as a people. And that's the series that we made, and I think that's why it was so successful.
That pitch is down low. My favorite part of your film, Baseball, as a young broadcaster, I did the pregame shows for the Seattle Mariners, and I had a chance in I think 92 or 93 to sit down with Buck O'Neill in Kansas City and do just a long interview, and what a fascinating guy. And then to see that he almost became the star of your film.
I think it really was. If he wasn't the star...
It's a foul ball. Bonifacio made the dive.
If he wasn't the star, he was the heart and soul of it. And Buck was the type of guy that you'd wake up with 6 a.m. with him, and you'd travel, around a town. You'd do all this media stuff, and at 11 o'clock, he was still going strong. And he made the person that he met in the elevator make you feel like he woke up that day to meet that person.
Yes.
I mean, he just, he was an amazing human being. He became very close to my daughters. He loved them. My daughter on her honeymoon went out of her way with her new husband to go to his hospital bed just before he passed away. He was one of the greatest human beings.
The years that I was fortunate to work in the American League, you looked forward to going to Kansas City.
You bet.
So you could sit down and talk with someone who was like talking to an encyclopedia,
That's
someone
exactly
who knew the history of the game.
And I think your film accomplished a lot of things. One of the things it did that was important in baseball history is it shed more light on the Negro Leagues.
That's what we wanted to do. Race has always been a subtext in American history, and for too long we sort of segregated that story of the Negro Leagues and then Jackie Robinson, and we wanted to fully integrate it in every sense of the word into a whole narrative about baseball. And I think we succeeded, and one of the reasons why I think we succeeded is because Buck was there to tell us what it was like in the old Negro Leagues, what it was like to play on a team with Jackie Robinson, what it was like in those bittersweet moments after Jackie came up when the Negro Leagues began to just fade, and then the rest of the story took over, and his love of the game was palpable in every single, breath he took.
I think there's a quote in there when he talked about the sound of the bat from Ruth, Gibson, and Bo Jackson.
Bo Jackson. He said he hadn't heard that, and he looked up, and he said that what he was living for was to hear that crack of the bat, that somebody who had that kind of authority, to hear it again, that the ball was going to sail out in a way that it just doesn't. Everything. I mean, that's the poetry of the game, and I had the great honor to deliver a eulogy at his memorial service in Kansas City, and it was about the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
3-1 ball game. The Marlins and the Braves. Ken Burns is with us. Now, you said a lot has happened since 1994 when this film came out. Actually, a lot has happened for the Florida Marlins. The Marlins have won 2 World Championships since then. Are they featured? I know you're up to 4 hours now. How much Marlins stuff?
They'll be Marlins. You know, we're excited about that. I think, you know, when on balance, a casual person would think, oh, all I've been looking at is negative, you know, headlines about the game, about strikes or steroids or money or whatever it is. But really, we're seeing the best play on the field that's ever happened in the game. These young men are so talented. And, you know, my film opened with Willie Mays' Vic Wertz catch in 1954. Well, you can see that, you know, once a week. Yeah. Something that good, if not better than that.
We saw Cody Ross make a catch just like that about a week ago.
Yeah, which actually brings up an interesting question. The differences that you found out, players back then to players now.
Yeah. You know, I think the biggest thing, it's not the steroids. It's not all the controversies. It's the money. I mean, in the old days, a player was always, you know, a good player was always 8 or 9 times what the average Joe was making.
Big strikeout by Graham Taylor. He gets Jordan Schaefer. That'll bring Lowe up with runners first and second.
But now it's, you know, hundreds of times what the average guy. And so we feel a distance that they're not sort of woven into the fabric of our neighborhood. And that's what makes a team like this so important. And your success in such a short time has been an amazing thing. You know, it proves that you just can't go out and buy each year, you know, the pennant or the World Series.
Lowe drops down a bunt and a good one. Bonifacio drops it and throws late. And Lowe is aboard. It'll be a sacrifice and an error on Bonifacio. And the Marlins kick away and out. The Braves have the bags loaded. And their leadoff man, a hot hitter, Infante, coming up.
That's only the 3rd error that Bonifacio has made this year, but we saw the Marlins boot a couple of balls, make a couple of errors last night. And when you're struggling, you just can't do this. When, in fact, the Braves are actually giving you an out right there with Derek Lowe dropping down a sacrifice bunt.
And so Taylor has to take on Infante, who singled in the first. And as we told you, for some reason, when Bobby Cox puts him in the leadoff spot, he is unstoppable. Marlins looking for a ground ball. What they get is a fly ball to deep left center. Maben's calling for it, short of the track. Tagging is Francoeur. He trots home, and it's a 1-run game. It is 3-2. So now, as the Braves score, and we talk more about your film baseball, and as you finish it off, it's fun to talk about the eras from the modern era to the eras back in the 20s. Alex Rodriguez is obviously a complex individual who is in all the headlines and all the tabloids. I'm not comparing Babe Ruth to Alex Rodriguez, but if the tabloids and the paparazzi were around when Babe Ruth...
Oh, it would be a different Babe Ruth. He comes down to us as a sort of a winning figure, but the kind of attention, the spotlight that Rodriguez or other stars of the day have, you know, is just totally different. And you'd think... And Ruth didn't have to fly to the West Coast. He didn't have to do night games. He never saw a split-fingered fastball. He never had to bat against the great Negro League stars, pitchers, a Satchel Paige.
Latin stars.
You know, Latin stars. So, you know, we wonder if he would be who he was.
That one's off of Hanley's glove, picked up by Maben. Runner coming home. The throw by Maben is short, cut by Kantu. And the Braves get another run. That was David Ross running from second. Maben had a shot at home. And apparently, I'm not sure, Tommy, if he thought he couldn't get him.
Well, the ball deflected a little bit by Hanley. And I think Maben was fooled because, yes, with Ross running, he had a play at the plate. And also Derek Lowe's at second base. He wasn't going to go anywhere either. He was just going to go from first to second. The ball was hit sharply by Escobar. But the one thought on Babe Ruth, Babe might have had Facebook if he'd have been.
He definitely would have
today.
It would have been called Hiya Fella. He never bothered to remember anybody's name. He'd just say Hiya Fella.
Chipper Jones now, and the Marlins have coughed up the lead. It's a 3-3 game.
It's also sort of scary to think about Babe Ruth on steroids, too, now that you bring it up.
Jones, a slicing drive, and it's out of play. So who in the extra, the 10th inning, who will be the personality that comes out, be it a Buck O'Neill or somebody like that?
You know, we've just started editing, and I wouldn't want to predict. We've got some of the old characters back, like Doris Kearns Goodwin and Bob Costas, Tom Boswell of the Washington Post, people who were very helpful to us. We brought in some new journalists like Howard Bryant and Tom Verducci, and a guy named Marcus Bertone who writes for the Sacramento Bee. We got Mike Barnacle, who we hadn't had before, help us understand the Red Sox stuff. So we'll see who kind of emerges from this, but we're going to deal with the rise of the Latin player and the Asian player. We've interviewed Ichiro, and he's fantastic. We've gone to the Dominican Republic to see, the source of so much of this great talent, and understand all of that. I'm so excited, and the balance. I mean, it's for somebody who tells stories. The drama that's inherent in this thing, good and bad, is just phenomenal.
Chipper Jones at the plate. Braves have a couple here in the second. Taylor's 2-2 is up, and the count is 3-2. A big moment for this young starter. Graham Taylor is the first of the Marlins 2006 draft class to make it to the big leagues. In an emergency with the injury that opened up a spot in the rotation. And Taylor to the plate. This is up and in, and they are loaded. So as a kid growing up, who was your team?
Well, I first grew up in Delaware, so I rooted and my dad was from Baltimore, so I was Orioles. But I'd been born in Brooklyn, so the Dodgers, I didn't experience their moving away. I was way too young, but I sort of rooted for Los Angeles and the Orioles. But moved to Michigan, was a Tigers fan for a while, but I've lived in New England for the last 35 years, almost 40 years. So
hard to escape the nation.
Yeah. And the amazing thing is, it's like the old days in New England. You go to a little town. I live in a tiny little town in New Hampshire, and you go in there, and on a baseball night, which is just about every night, the game's on every single household, and everybody the next day talks about it, thinks about it, cares about it.
Now, every time I see you, you look so dapper. You have a sport coat and a dress shirt. Do you have like a Rem Dog T-shirt on under there?
Yeah, I wish. We saved it, No, we've been doing a lot of promotion. I just finished a film that will be broadcast this fall on the history of the national parks, and we're down a different kind of parks.
Right.
And we're down in South Florida talking about the Everglades and Biscayne and the dried tortugas and this great institution that America started for the world of saving special places.
What inspired you to do that on the national parks?
I'm interested in how my country ticks, and for the first time in human history, land was set aside not for the very rich, not for kings, not for noblemen, but for everybody and for all times. We invented this idea. It's been copied around the world. But this isn't a travelogue. It isn't a nature film. It's the story of the individuals, just like the baseball series has been and will be the story of people.
Ooh, that pitch just missed. And
you notice
3-2
a couple of times tonight on veteran hitters, Chipper Jones and Garrett Anderson now. Graham Taylor has had pitches that just missed.
Derek Lowe had a couple of pitches go his way as a veteran starter. 3-2 coming. Smacked into center field. Base hit. Braves have one. Braves have two. And the Braves have the lead. 5-3. As Lowe and Escobar come across. Both of those sequences, Tommy, that 2-2 pitch to Anderson, which he just hits into center field, and the pitch that he didn't get to Jones were followed by big hits.
Yeah, Chipper Jones had that double to straightaway center field. Both hitters know, they're veteran guys. They know they're going to get that fastball again, and it's going to have a little more of the plate.
And so Mark Wiley out to talk to Taylor right now. So now the national park that's down here that is piquing your interest is?
The Everglades and Biscayne Bay, two beautiful, beautiful parks, different stories. And what's interesting is the national parks are not just gifts bestowed on us by our government. It's usually because someone fell in love with the place and insisted that we save it. And the Everglades were in danger of all the development in Miami just filling it all in. And it's one of the most diverse environments we have. And Biscayne Bay was the same thing. It was going to go the way of Miami Beach or Key Biscayne, and it's now these pristine oasis in the middle of metropolitan Miami. And the story of the people who saved it is as interesting as any stories we've told in any of the films we've done.
Martin Prado, who does not have a starring role yet in Ken Burns' baseball, but you never know. Prado's 0 for 1, and Taylor misses inside. And Tommy, Taylor's known as a strike thrower, and he's done that, but the Braves have hit him.
Yeah, it's the MO that he came up with. He throws a lot of strikes, doesn't walk many, but when you don't have overpowering stuff, you've got to be pinpoint at this level.
And you have to get help from your defense. And certainly Taylor's not been helped by the men behind him. The error by Bonifacio turns into a big play, because this inning would have been over.
You know, you have strikeout stuff. You can camouflage a couple of errors every once in a while.
And the count is 3-0. 2 out. The Marlins are loath to go to their bullpen this early. The Fish got 6 innings last night from Chris Volstad, but 2 nights ago, of course, they played 14 innings, and the pen was used extensively.
35 pitches just in this inning, and remember, he had a nice 11-pitch first inning.
See, Tommy and I are trying to use as many big words as we can, hoping that maybe you'll call us if Costas gets a sore throat. Full count, 3-2. Ken Burns is with us, and he'll be here in the top and the bottom half. So you've got the bottom half and the top half. Do you finish one first before the other?
No, we try to treat them as one film, but it's got a great dramatic arc, which is at the end of the...
Into center, Maven is there. Keep that thought, and come on back with us as the Braves put 4 on the board and lead this game 5-3.
That helps your cause if Costas gets laryngitis.
Outstanding. And you can pick this up still anywhere. And obviously we're expecting the 10th inning. When will that be done?
We hope to have it out a year from the fall, so the fall of 2010. So it'll be 16 years from when we broadcast the last one, and a lot of stories to tell.
Yep. Well, I've seen a few of them on the MLB network. I know they've started to replay them a lot. And Jeremy Hermida takes a strike. The Civil War was another fabulous one. Which Civil War hero would have made a great Major League manager?
Well, I think you'd have to say that Ulysses S. Grant would. A great general. Maybe Abraham Lincoln would have. They were cool under pressure, and I think knew how to manage other men.
Hermida bounces it off the mound, and it's dropped by Infante. And Hermita's aboard. And so a good AB for Jeremy as he tries to get on track, and the Marlins try to bounce back, down 5-3.
Boy, for a moment it looked like Jeremy Hermita was going to get robbed because this ball hits the mound and kicks up high, so it gives Infante a shot. And once he started to transfer to make the throw, he just dropped it, but it should be a base hit.
So Ulysses S. Grant would be, he would be the Tony La Russa?
That's a good question. Who would we compare him with? Yeah.
Who would be the Billy Martin of the Civil War?
Oh, it would have to be some hot-headed Southern general, and they had a lot of great generals, you know, and it would have been passionate and lots of yelling and screaming and all of that stuff.
Cody Ross at the plate. Taylor to follow. Runner goes, breaking ball, and the throw is high. Hermita's got it stolen.
Interesting choice for Jeremy to take off trailing 5-3. We don't see him steal a lot of bases, and a lot of times you get the go-ahead from the manager. You know what? If you can get a good jump, if you get a good lead, go ahead. But with a 5-3 deficit, you have to make sure you make it. And he did.
Breaking ball misses outside. Of the national parks you've visited so far doing this film, what's the one that's caught your eye the most?
You know, there's so many spectacular ones. The Everglades is particularly beautiful, but Yosemite in California and you know, Yellowstone, those are the big, great ones. And like the Babe Ruth is the Grand Canyon. You know, so you have these arguments. Oh, I think it's Ted Williams. I think it's Joe DiMaggio. No, it's Mickey Mantle. No, it's Willie Mays. But then you always have to say, you mean besides Babe Ruth? And I think in some ways the Grand Canyon, you know, it's the grandest canyon on earth.
Well, Tommy and I both grew up in California, so we're aware of California. I grew up in the area where John Muir.
John Muir, yeah, he's one of the heroes of the film. He's a Scottish-born immigrant who comes and shows Americans how to love nature, you know.
Cody Ross, that's a foul ball.
And you see, Rich, the difference. I grew up in Pasadena, and there was John Muir High School.
That's right.
Marlins down here, 5-3. It's only the second. Hermita's hit for the Fish, their third of the ball game. Jorge Kantu had a 3-run homer in the first. Ken Burns is with us.
Ken, you picked a great time. This is the best to me, and I've lived in South Florida over 25 years. April and May seem to be the best months weather-wise.
We stepped off a plane from wet New York into this, and we've enjoyed these 2 days. It has been just a great advertisement for this neck of the woods.
Now, our producer, John Solster, was, I believe, a film major at the University of Florida, so he has more questions about technical things than baseball things. He wants to know about the Ken Burns effect.
Yeah. Well, this is the technological tail wagging the dog. Steve Jobs at Apple called me up about 7 years ago and said, come out. We've been trying to perfect this thing where you can pan and zoom through the photos that you download on all of your Apple computers. And, you know, we've finally done it, and it's going to be in every Apple computer. And our working title was the Ken Burns effect, because that's what I've done and popularized in our histories. And I said, well, look, I don't do commercial endorsements, but we worked out where he gives a lot of equipment to nonprofits on my behalf. And
you didn't get an iPod out of it?
Yeah. But, you know, it's really funny because I'm not that technologically savvy, so I walk by an Apple store and people pile out. Oh, my God, that's Ken Burns. They start telling me all the things they've done with the Ken Burns effect, and I sort of have to cross my eyes and pretend like I'm Yoda.
Taylor tries to bunt, and the throw goes behind Hermita, who is caught off base and out at third.
Well, I tell you what, we saw last night an error. We saw a base running mistake last night from Cody Ross, and that's a big mistake for Jeremy Hermita. You try to get the maximum lead, and when the hitter bunts through the ball, Hermita's in no man's land, and the Braves complete the play perfectly. You try to get the lead, but now he thinks you can't go that far until the ball's put down on the ground.
And Taylor fouls the bunt off. Quite honestly, Ken, I know that it's been an enjoyable inning for us to chat, but a lot of what we've seen here would end up on the editing room floor.
I'm afraid so. Although Kantu's blast was pretty impressive.
Yes.
You know, that showed a lot of authority. Yeah, I think it all began with that missed Lowe's bunt.
Little things.
Little things
add up. And Taylor is out trying to bunt.
And you know what? The fans have every right to boo the way things have gone the last inning and a half.
Fundamentals, and that's what Atlanta did when they hit
And you have two teams too, Ken. You know, you probably haven't followed, but both the Braves and the Marlins have struggled offensively.
Yes, this year.
And so when you're struggling offensively, you have to do those little things.
Yeah, and make up, and they're not doing it.
Here is Bonifacio. So wait a minute, you're not technically savvy. Do you edit your stuff on computer? Huh?
Yeah, we have a big, huge, massive computer editing, but I held on to that snipping with the stuff for way too long until everybody thought I was a dinosaur, and the editors pleaded with me to switch to that. But I don't physically do it myself.
Was baseball done snipping?
All edited by hand, and all handmade, and that's 18.5 hours long. And that means you have to keep track of 50 times that amount of material. That's the shooting ratio that we have for that. It was an amazing job to do that.
And I would expect it's a much different process in the extra inning, the 10th inning.
Oh yeah, it's much easier. You can really distill a lot more footage, and we've been working closely with Major League Baseball because, of course, everything we show is going to be MLB stuff, and they've been just fantastic.
Bonifacio chops it out in front of the plate. Ross will pick it up and by a step get Bonifacio. And a promising inning goes up in smoke, but we had a good time talking with Ken Burns. Ken, thank you very much.
It's been my pleasure.
Good luck with National Parks and good luck with the 10th inning.
We'll be back next year.
Third inning. Braves on top 5-3. Jeff Francoeur against Graham Taylor. Francoeur goes after a pitch in the dirt. For Graham Taylor, a run in the first and a costly error in the second opened the door for 4 in the second. Francoeur punches it into center. So he's 2 for 2. You can become a Marlins season ticket holder in 2009 and enjoy the best rewards and benefits in the majors. Enjoy great savings by choosing from a variety of plans starting at just $85. Don't miss Super Saturdays, the Yankees series, closing day, and more. Become a Marlins season ticket holder today. David Ross, it was Francoeur and Ross that led off the second with base hits, and that opened the door.
You know the amazing thing about this game, Rich? You feel, because of the way the Marlins have played, that they're losing 10-2. And it's only a 2-run game. They're down 5-3. But they're going to have to play a lot better.
They got to run the bases better. They have to play defense better. They are tonight swinging the bats better, which is little consolation, but it is a step in the right direction.
Now with Graham Taylor pitching, he has taken the spot of Andrew Miller, who did pitch this morning up in Jupiter at Roger Dean Stadium. 4 innings through 65 pitches, and all reports were good. And in 5 days, he'll get another start, probably at Double-A.
Frank Fort was there today, up bright and early. Frank, how did he look?
In fact, the brass was there. Larry Beinfest, Mike Hill, even Jack McKeon went up to watch a little bit. As you said, 4 innings. He only gave up 3 hits, 1 run, walked 1, and struck out 5. And on top of that, got 6 ground ball outs, which I think for Andrew Miller is a good sign. He'll now make another start, as you mentioned. It's going to be Monday with the Jacksonville team in Double-A, but everything looked good in that Jacksonville start. They're going to bump him up to 80 to 85 pitches. He came out of today's outing feeling very good up in Jupiter, left with the game tied 1-1, was not involved in the decision. But a good rehab outing for Andrew Miller today.
Graham Taylor might not be long for this ballgame, especially if this continues. And you know, you get a sense it's still at a point where it's 5-3. It's a 2-run game, and you really don't want to let this one get away. Because you've got a Braves team right now that has some cold bats and is missing maybe its most potent bat in terms of run production, and that's Brian McCann.
And right now, they're not fooled by Graham Taylor. They're having pretty good swings. Except for that one. Good pitch to David Ross. And that's what Graham has to do. He has to keep the ball down. He has to change speeds, keep the hitters off balance.
Ross goes after it.
Another good one. And I think that's there are many differences, but that's one. You look at Taylor a couple of years ago at Greensboro, an A-ball, 11-3 with a 2.68 ERA. Well, young, aggressive hitters down at that level, they're going to chase a lot of stuff. You get up here, a lot more patience.
Here's Jordan Schaefer.
This young hitter's struggling. Remember, he got off to a pretty good start for Bobby Cox. Hit a home run opening day in Philadelphia.
So as you look around the league, there are guys that are like a Maben or a Schaefer.
Absolutely.
You see the strikeout numbers for Schaefer.
Boy, the struggling outfielder with the Diamondbacks, Chris Young, you saw his name right there.
Francoeur at first. After the ball game, inside the Marlins, our own documentarian Frank Fort will bring you inside the Marlins. Andre Dawson.
Did Frank use the Ken Burns editing equipment?
I don't know if he used the Ken Burns effect or not. But if you watch it, there's just terrific footage, and it's a great reminder of what a great player Hawk was, especially in his Montreal Expo
days. A complete player. Could run the bases, could throw guys out, could win Gold Gloves, could hit home runs.
See, I think what Frank needs to do is make a copy of that and send it to all of the Hall of Fame voters.
Aha, good
so
idea.
They could be reminded, because that's where he belongs.
Guys, I want to second that. I mean, when you look back at the numbers, and one of his teammates mentioned it, that is, the numbers were so inflated back then by some guys that you really don't, or the guys immediately following Dawson in the mid 90s, that you don't really appreciate some of the things that he did in the 80s with Montreal and some of the numbers he put up, even with Chicago, 49 homers and 137 RBI on a last place team. And Tommy, you were one of the guys that we interviewed for the show, along with a lot of former teammates, Terry Francona, Warren Cromartie, and they all say, you know, not only was he a great player skill-wise, but he was the ultimate professional.
Oh,
and set such a great example for his young teammates.
Absolutely.
And I think maybe a lot of the Hall of Fame voters don't realize what a pounding the artificial turf in Montreal, what it did to his knees, what it did to his career. It really changed him as a player, and he still thrived after that, Frank.
Jeff Conine even said when he came here with the Marlins the final 2 years of his career as a 40 and 41-year-old, Jeff said his knees were terrible. He said, but his bat speed was still amazing. He had a bat speed of a 25-year-old.
Huh. All right, good stuff, and that's right after the game.
Immediately following Marlins Live postgame, we'll take you right into Andre Dawson. We call the show Andre Dawson, a Florida legend. After all, he was born in Miami, went to high school here, went to college at Florida A&M University. Believe it or not, guys, he was a walk-on at FAMU.
That is hard to believe. It's also hard to believe that the Marlins have walked the pitcher to load the bases. That might be the last hitter. It is. It's the last hitter that Graham Taylor's going to face.
Well, Freddie Gonzalez has to make a move. Unfortunately, this is not it for Graham Taylor. And to be quite honest, I'd be surprised if he gets another start. So Freddie's got to make a move because it's still just a two-run game. And hopefully Dan Meyer, who comes in, can keep it that, maybe just give up one more run.
In comes Meyer. Here's our Marooney. Call to the bullpen.
When you need
Road trip. Marlins are headed there Friday through Sunday. Mile High Coors Field. Great place to hit. Fun place to watch a ball game. And then after that, when the sun sets, it's on to Milwaukee. Oh, we love Milwaukee. We love Bernie Brewer.
We love the Brats.
We love Ryan Braun and Prince Fielder. And we love the sausage race. The Marlins would love to have Dan Meyer get a couple outs and escape this third inning before this game gets out of hand. Bags loaded. Infante. Singleton scored, has a sacrifice fly, and he's hot.
Yeah, remember, the Braves have lost 4 straight. They're coming off a 2-6 homestand.
Pop up, trouble, drops. Ross scoops it and almost gets the out at second. Braves get a run. So Meyer ends up making a good pitch, but the Braves get a bloop single.
I'm not sure if Dan Uggla could have caught that ball if he's a little more normal position, but he's playing for double play. Couldn't quite get there. Cody couldn't get there. That's just one of those bloops that found the right spot. Certainly not for lack of effort. Dan Uggla and Cody Ross going after that ball.
But the bags are still loaded. And now here is Escobar. Another pop up. Ross is under it. Runner is tagging. That's Schaefer with good wheels. And he'll hold right there.
Cody not real happy with the throw, but he did everything right to get to this ball, catch momentum going forward. And it was good enough right to the cutoff man that it held the runner at third base, who, as you pointed out, Rich, good speed, Jordan Schaefer.
Brian Snitker, the third base coach, also very much aware of who was on deck.
That's why a lot of third base coaches during batting practice or infield practice, they'll watch the outfielders throw, just in case they're not sure of what kind of arms, strength, and accuracy.
Managers have to think a couple hitters ahead, actually a couple innings ahead. This is a case where a third base coach has to think a couple hitters ahead, because if he sends him and he scores, it opens up first base. You got Chipper on deck. You'd rather have Chipper with the bags loaded and 2 outs than take that chance at the plate.
Yeah, you were mentioning earlier the tremendous career numbers for Chipper Jones. Here's Garrett Anderson on deck. A couple of veteran hitters back to back. 37 career home runs against the Marlins, but 42 career home runs against Philadelphia and 40 against the Mets.
Meyer gets that call at the knees.
See, Chipper took that pitch against Graham Taylor, and it was a ball. This is a pretty good pitch. Chipper looking out over the plate, got the good fastball in. He wasn't ready for it.
One, two.
Tried to come back in there.
Phillies and Mets are playing tonight and are scoreless in the fourth.
Johan Santana and Chan-Ho Park.
Base hit, center field. 2 more will score.
With his second hit tonight, Chipper Jones now at 2,300. 2,300 career base hits. 2 for 2 tonight, a couple of RBIs. That's why he's been such a great RBI hitter, too. He gets to that 2-strike situation, stays back, up the middle, and picks up 2.
So the Braves have cracked it open here. And it's Meyer against Garrett Anderson. Oh, and 1. Anderson drove in a run in the first with a ground out. Drove in 2 with a single in the second.
You know, there's a lot of changes. Freddie made a couple little tweaks in the lineup, but you still need to get that starting pitching to keep you in ball games, because you never know. And it got off to a good start with the Marlins getting the 3-run homer from Jorge Cantu in the first inning. And there's still a lot of time, but you have to shut down the Braves.
It's a Braves team that hasn't been scoring a lot of runs lately.
Yeah, and a good young pitcher, Jair Jurgens, tomorrow against Anibal Sanchez.
Oh, 2.
These last couple of innings, I think, because Ken Burns has moved over to radio now, these last couple of innings have been the Ken Burns effect for the Atlanta Braves.
Two and 2. Meyer in relief of Graham Taylor. This is a little bit of a different role for Meyer, and that is coming in early to a game.
Well, he's done such a nice job in his role this year so far.
You think about the 2 hits that he's given up in this inning. Infante's was the pop-up that fell in right, and Jones broke his bat on that soft liner up the middle.
And he's been tough to hit opposing batters. 143 against Dan Meyer coming into this appearance.
Struck him out. Anderson goes down. Meyer finishes a mess of an inning as the Braves are on top 8-3. Family Sunday is on the 17th when the Marlins and the Dodgers go out at 1:10. A Hanley Ramirez baseball glove could be yours, courtesy of Qdoba Mexican Grill if you're a kid. Plus, bring the adults to the Strike Zone, kids, for Family Sunday activities. 1-877-MARLINS. Maben, Hanley, and Cantu. The Marlins actually have hit Derek Lowe pretty well, but now the veteran right-hander has a 5-run lead to work with. He can try to feed his infielders a steady diet of ground balls.
Yeah, really, in his career, he's 5-4 against the Marlins with an ERA about 4.5. So over his career, the Marlins have seen him well. They've seen him a lot. And more often than not, they've hit him pretty well.
Especially Hanley. Hanley has a base hit tonight. He is 10 for 18 against Lowe.
Well, the one thing the Braves got when they signed Derek Lowe is a durable pitcher. He's never been on the disabled list.
As talented as the Dodgers are, it's amazing that Lowe pitched 4 seasons there, and in those 4 seasons had a 3.59 ERA, and yet went just 54 and 48. I mean, 3.59 is a very good ERA.
The ERA indicates that he should have been a lot better than that.
Maben trying to beat that one out, and he will. Got through Chipper. That's a base hit.
Yeah, that's a do or die play for Chipper Jones. And even if he gets there, it's going to be tough. And rightfully so. Base hit. There's a good sinker. Cameron reaches out. Chipper trying to pick and throw. And Cameron Maben just flying up the line. Gets himself a base hit. Demonstrating some of that speed.
So Maben is aboard. And now here's the matchup that we talked about. You got Hanley, who was 6 for his last 11, 10 for 18 against Lowe, and Maben's at first base. The hard part for the Fish now is trying not to get it all back at once. If they can keep Lowe's pitch count up, and he's already at 46.
They can get into a Braves bullpen that's been iffy.
Doubles leaders, our Firestone leaderboard. Freddie Sanchez, Ryan Zimmerman, both hot. Kochman not getting the start tonight. We just saw Votto. We will see Cameron. And there's Hanley.
Hey, by the way, for Cameron Maben, that's his 7th infield base hit. Again, just telling you the kind of speed he has. The major league leader in infield base hits, no surprise, Carl Crawford of the Braves. Carl Crawford showing off some of that speed at New Yankee Stadium tonight.
Rays 1-0 in the 4th. The Marlins going into this ball game felt they could run on the combination of Lowe and Ross. And they did so when Jeremy Hermida stole second his first time up. That was all well and good until Hermida got picked off at second base. Hanley off of Lowe. Out at first.
Wow, that's just bad luck. Hanley again taking Lowe right up the middle. Remember, his base hit in the first inning was right up the middle into center field. Crushes this ball off Derek Lowe. You hope for a carom in another direction, but it caroms over to the first baseman, Martin Prado. Just gets to the bag ahead of Hanley.
And obviously the Braves concerned about Lowe, who, as Tommy pointed out, has never been on the disabled list.
You could almost hear that it got shoe, it got foot, as opposed to up a little higher. But a bad break for Hanley.
Meanwhile, while Lowe gets loose, let's check in with Frank Fort.
Thanks very much, Rich. With the Braves, their 4-run second inning continuing kind of a disturbing trend for the Marlins. In games 1 through 9 of the season, we're going to define a big inning as 4 or more runs. The Marlins did that 5 times. The opponents did not do it. Now in games 10 through 27 coming into tonight, and you add in tonight's, it's 8 times the opponents have done it, 4 times for the Marlins. So 8 innings of 4 or more runs in games 10 now through 28. And that, by the way, coincides with this current streak of Marlin pitchers going without a victory. They've been victimized by some of those big innings.
Well, and the grand slams during that time have certainly been a key contributor.
Kantu's home run back in the first. Marlins had a 3-1 lead. It didn't last long. Pace of this ball game is moving right along.
If this pace continues, we'll just stay here for the 12 o'clock start tomorrow.
Kantu drives it right center field, and Jorge has got himself an RBI hit. It's a double.
Stay locked in, Jorge Kantu. 4 RBIs on the night as Maben comes in to score. And our checkers double of the game is a thing of beauty by Jorge Kantu. First inning, he lifts one into the seats for a 3-run shot. Now he goes to right center, just right of the Geico sign for our checkers double of the game, and another RBI.
So Kantu has driven in every Marlin run. I'm telling you, folks, log on, MLB.com, all-star voting. Yeah, I know Pujols is the best player on the planet, but Jorge Kantu deserves some recognition.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's good to see, too, because the Reds in that 2-game series kept him kind of quiet. He was just 1 for 10. But he has come out with great swings tonight.
Buddy Carlisle. Would Buddy Carlisle be warming up had Lowe not been hit in the foot, you think?
Probably not. I think Bobby Cox, because Lowe's such a veteran, would try to get him in and through 5 innings.
Baker goes down.
Boy, perfect pitch. That breaking ball just found the outside corner.
Here comes Uggla now. Now Uggla's had success against Lowe. So he's 0 for 1. 6 hits, 19 trips. And before Kantu's blast, he'd hit the only home run off of Lowe by any current Marlin. One ball, one strike.
Yeah, we talked about Lowe's outing against the Marlins earlier this year in Atlanta. And Dan Uggla had an RBI single, had 2 runs driven in with a double. So he had a couple big hits off Lowe in that game.
Be nice to pick up this other run. That's a tough strike. It's 1-2. Marlins, of course, had an opportunity in the second when Hermida got picked off with runners first and second and nobody out. They didn't get a run there. They've got one here.
He's been getting slidered to death.
Lowe wants a new baseball. Lowe got a new contract when he signed on with the Braves.
There was all kinds of speculation during the offseason as to where he was going to go, too.
4 years, $60 million. The Braves seem to be in the middle of every speculative trade in the offseason.
He's one that didn't get away. Another slider.
Let's see, who are the guys that were supposed to be Braves?
Well, for Call, looked like was coming back.
Ken Griffey Jr.
Ken Griffey Jr. There was even some speculation about Mark Teixeira.
You know, I think for the Braves, that trade, well, those trades, the trade to get Teixeira and the trade to send him out to Anaheim, yeah, they got some nice pieces in return. But when you trade a Jared Saltalamacchia and you get an impact guy like Teixeira, and then you turn around and he's gone, I think they miss that kind of presence in their lineup. Ugla, a high fly ball. Schaefer makes the catch. Marlins get one back in the third. Bobby Cox and the Braves up 8-4, fourth inning. A lot of runs early on. Now, we were talking about some of the
lead in the fifth inning.
You know, the interesting part about the Braves, I don't think the rotation is their issue right now. I think they did a nice job with their rotation with Lowe and Vasquez. You got Jurgens in there.
Jurgens is thrown very well, and we'll see him tomorrow. The veteran you mentioned, Javier Vasquez.
Kenshin Kawakami. It's been a struggle for him. He's 1-4.
But that was one area that Bobby Cox said he felt pretty good about in his club this year.
Hanley's out. Maven's calling for it. And Cameron makes a nice play. Young center fielder calling off his shortstop. Hey, the Ducks here. Ducks a little loud tonight. Only Brave to hit an inside the park homer against the Fish.
This is a good one. I think the Aflac Duck stayed up extra late last night. Came up with this one.
It is not a current Brave.
Can we give one more hint?
It is not Deion Sanders.
It's not a current Brave, but he's in the ballpark tonight.
That's right. When Ken Burns was a youngster, that one fouled back. Is he in uniform?
He is in uniform.
Does he have speed?
You would not think inside the park home run. We talked about it when we were in Atlanta. Jeff Francoeur, who had an awful season last year, just hit .239, 11 home runs. Made some changes with his stance, and he's gotten off to a better start this year. And he has a couple of hits tonight, 7-game hitting streak, and he's 2 for 2 tonight. Nice changeup, and it was a changeup that got the fly ball from Prado. So 2 good changeups by Dan Meyer.
Now David Ross, the catcher. Braves are hoping that Brian McCann is ready to go on Friday. He's on the disabled list with an eye injury.
Yeah, a lot of good changeups from Dan. I think now that he knows he's going to give Freddie more than just 1 inning. We've seen him come in situational times, and he'll go right after hitters, good cut fastballs. But he's using the changeup a little bit more. He's pitching a little bit more, and he has had experience in his career as a starter. So that's why he's just not a one-pitch guy.
Of course, he was a top prospect in the Braves organization when Atlanta made the Tim Hudson trade and acquired Hudson from Oakland.
He's one of the main guys Oakland wanted.
Had an injury, never could quite find his old form. This has been somewhat of a comeback year for him. Chance to prove that he could pitch in the big leagues. Two and two.
Well, he was early in the count with changeups, and then he just missed with a couple of fastballs away.
Milwaukee is starting to heat up. They've won 3 in a row, and they've scored 9 times in the first inning and a half in Cincinnati. So they're still hitting in the second. Full count. 2 outs. We're only in the 4th. Mets and Phillies scoreless.
That's a pretty good game going on at City Field. You know, I had to think. I almost said Shea.
In this,
I'm sure it's happened before.
That's all right. That's what. Isn't that the middle name of Chipper Jones, one of his children?
Yeah, they just call Chipper Larry. I wonder if they'll call him Larry at City Field.
He used to tear Shea up.
Well, we mentioned against the Mets, 40 career home runs.
Scoreless in the 6th, Phillies Mets. That would be strike 3. And Dan Meyer works a 1-2-3-4. Marlins trying to climb back, down 4. by Corona, the official sponsor of the timeout, and by Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. Popcorn for everybody. In fact, if you're with us at home, you might want to go to the cupboard, get some popcorn, toss it in the microwave, get yourself comfortable, because this one has a ways to go. The Marlins.
It's better in the old popcorn popper, though, than in the microwave.
Anything's better than the old Jiffy Pop one where
you held it over the stove.
Well, and half of it got burned, and then like when the whole house smelled bad. There's nothing worse than burnt popcorn smell.
And that tin foil was hot. You started to take it off.
Here's the 2-0 pitch. Hermida turns on it, diving stop. Prado steps on the bag. Jeremy's hit it hard twice. Three-quarters of our audience has no idea what Jiffy Pop is. Who's the only Brave to hit an inside the park home run against the Fish?
Good question. How about that?
Wes Helm.
Off A.J. Burnett.
Now somebody must have collided with somebody. We have to ask Wes that.
We'll check with Wes.
Here's Ross.
By the way, we did a little research. We mentioned it the other night. Remember, Cody Ross caught the ceremonial first pitch from Regis Philbin. So I asked Cody today. I said, "How did you get awarded that opportunity?" I said, "What was the pecking order? How did that all come about?" And he said that Marlins Vice President of Marketing, Sean Flynn, came to him about a week ago and asked him if he would do it. And he said, yeah, he was a little upset that he didn't pick it. And he said, yeah, I took a little heat, too, from Regis.
You got to help me out. This is a game that I think if Regis watched the first inning, first couple innings, it would have driven him nuts. But hopefully he'll come back and watch the later innings. The Marlins, Ross goes around, Laz Diaz says. And that's a strikeout. Marlins are down 4 here in the 4th.
Yeah, couldn't quite control it.
Dan Meyer now.
And again, you talk about these situations and what happens when a starting pitcher does not get you deeper into games. Now Freddie is deciding to use, and this is a good choice because Dan's throwing the ball well. But he'll try to get a couple more innings out of Dan Meyer. And now you lose Dan Meyer for a few days. And so you get those matchups, some of those lefty-lefty matchups. You're only going to have the one lefty, Raniel Pinto, to work with in the bullpen. So when you have a Brad Hopp or a Todd Helton when the ball club's in Denver, you might not be able to use Dan Meyer.
Last night on Email Tuesday, we had a variety of emails that we never got to about Scott Proctor, and the news on Proctor is not good. He's been shut down, and they're examining that elbow again. Lowe strikes out Meyer. That foot in which Lowe got hit doesn't seem to be a problem.
Y sigue Jorge Kantu teniendo una gran campaña.
Press the sat button on
En
your
el
set and your
2001.
remote. And Cookie and Raul, you guys have real chicken
Real
over
chicken.
Cookie,
We finally got it.
Raul.
Hey, Tommy, what's
Tommy,
up?
how are you?
Real chicken.
All right. You're coming over, aren't you? Yeah.
What a surprise.
See, guys, you know, it's like he heard that you guys had real chicken, and I turned my back, and the next thing I know, there he is.
Hey, but you know what? Make sure he brought you a piece, Rich.
Yeah.
Well, he may be back the next half inning. Cookie, what's your thought on tonight's ball game? The Marlins all of a sudden have forgotten that the good defense helped get them off to a good start.
Well, that is right. You know, the error that Bonifacio made at third base cost us 4 runs, and defense means a lot. And Taylor wasn't at his best today, you know, a little bit behind hitters and threw a lot of pitches. So when that happens, I think it's very tough against a pitcher like Derek Lowe to come back.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, Tommy will be by in the next half inning after he finishes this piece.
I'm back, Rich. I'm back.
Good day. You're pretty quick, Tommy.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
You got
Good
it.
to see you
Anytime.
guys.
Rich, they had real chicken there.
I know. I saw that. I was alarmed because I turned and you weren't here, and then there you were, and then, you know, they say KFC is finger licking good. Watch this. Watch this. Now, is there a better advertisement for Kentucky Fried Chicken? Huh?
I don't think so.
KFC. Here's the 2-1. Meyer with a fastball. Schaefer going after it. Schaefer, Lowe, and Infante.
Yeah, this is an area that Schaefer's working on. 10 strikeouts his last 4 games coming into tonight, and he struck out his first time up and then walked and scored a run his second time.
Meyer looks strong. You know, there's a thought here as well.
Yeah, you're going right where I was thinking. Go ahead and finish it, Rich.
If Meyer pitches effectively here and he is stretched out for 3-4 innings, the Marlins essentially
You start him. Yeah,
essentially could plug him into this spot in the rotation next time around.
absolutely. Now, the only downside to that, now it brings you with one less left-hander in the bullpen. But I like your thinking.
Derek Lowe. Lowe has had some pivotal at-bats in this ball game. And he's a good example of, as we talked about, if you don't do the little things right, you can give up some big innings. Lowe put the sacrifice bunt down in the second. It was a very good bunt, but Bonifacio, trying to barehand it, dropped the ball, and Lowe was safe at first. And the Braves would go on to score 4 runs in the inning. And then Lowe in the third, with a couple runners aboard, was walked by Taylor to load the bases. It was the last hitter that Taylor faced. And of course the Braves would go on to score 3 runs. So if the Marlins could just get Derek Lowe out, they'd still be on top. My God, I'm starting to talk like Regis now.
Yeah, the more you think about Dan Meyer, I'm looking at his minor league career with Atlanta, some with Oakland. 140 games, 134 game starts. So that's all he's been, a starting pitcher, until his a couple of starts in the big leagues, a few, but mostly pitching out of the bullpen.
Lowe goes down. And there are 2 outs. Meyer looking good. All right, after this ball game, you want to watch this. Andre Dawson, a Florida legend, inside the Marlins. Played 12 big league seasons, many accomplishments during his career. The Hawk, it premieres tonight, immediately following Marlins Live. And if you want a little preview log on to fsfloridatv.com and click on the Marlins link. Here's Infante.
And that's the one thing I think we've all liked, watching Dan Meyer, is the way he goes after hitters. Good fastballs, cut fastballs, and as I mentioned last inning, we've seen a good changeup out of him tonight too. There's the change.
There's a fly ball. And Maben is under it. And he makes the catch. By the way, that promo card was wrong. Hawk played 21 years in the big leagues, not 12. First at bat, and he follows that up with an RBI double. 29 RBIs on the season now. Check out the new R Performance vehicles at your local Jaguar dealer or on JaguarUSA.com. That has the coolest sound effects of any of the drop-ins that we have. Here's Bonifacio, Maben, and Ramirez.
And I like the way you pause. You allow those sound effects to take over.
I know. Well, I can't hear them unless I stop. Bonifacio's 0 for 2. That looked like a pretty good pitch. Lowe kind of put both arms up. Like, what do you want out of me?
Just an amazing game. It's 8-4. The Marlins top of the order here. If they just get a couple of runs, all of a sudden it's a 2-run ball game.
Bonifacio up the middle. Infante in time. So here comes Maben. He's walked and has an infield single. Remember, tomorrow's game is at noon. Breakfast with, is it Frank tomorrow or Craig? Breakfast with either Frank or Craig. Maybe Frank and Craig you can have breakfast with at 11:30 with Marlins Live. And it's Jair Jurgens and Anibal Sanchez in high definition.
Boy, looking through some of the stats around baseball, and saw atop the American League in batting average, Miguel Cabrera. There's Sanchi getting ready for that noon start tomorrow.
Same hometown as Anibal Sanchez, right?
Yeah, Miggy hitting .406 coming into play today.
Boy, that ball was smoked. Maybe I don't think can hit it any harder than that. So a good AB by Cameron, but no results.
Yeah, the Marlins have hit a few balls hard. There's Pinto getting ready. Hermida hit a hard ground ball. How about the one Hanley hit back off the foot of Derek Lowe?
That ball caromed to Prado at first, and Hanley was actually out. So he's 1 for 2.
Well, over the last 7 years, Derek Lowe tied for 3rd most wins during that period of time.
His career, of course, unique in that he has started and been a good starter and closed and been a good closer. Not quite Smoltz-like, but pretty darn close. And of course, Smoltz is trying to get back to the big leagues with the Boston Red Sox. I was looking at the Marlins schedule in June. That's when the Marlins go to see Boston. You wonder if Smoltz could be back by then.
I'm not sure, because we did read the other day where they shut him down for a little bit. Yeah, 42 saves for Derek Lowe in 2000 for the Red Sox. He's got something in common with Dennis Eckersley and John Smoltz.
That's right, Eckersley did it as well.
They've had 40 save seasons, and they've had 20 win seasons.
Now, if Smoltz doesn't make it back this year, say he's on the injured list, the disabled list for much of the season, and then says, you know what, I can't make it back, is he eligible to come in the Hall of Fame same year as
Well, that's a good question.
Maddox?
I don't think so. It's a good question, and I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think so.
Or since he's been on an active, or I guess he's not been on an active roster, but he's been on the Red Sox rosters. He tries to get to the
he's
big
getting
leagues.
paid.
If that's the criteria, then
I try to make it simple. He's getting a little jingle every couple of weeks.
Hanley shoots that one foul.
No, we talked about it the last time. Derek Lowe was instrumental in the Red Sox World Series. He was the pitcher on the mound every clinching game. So he was their go-to guy in 04.
A walk to Hanley. Lowe's not real happy. He's not a guy that's accustomed to walking a lot of guys.
Yeah, plus he knows the guy that's stepping in here is giving him a little trouble tonight. Driven in all the runs for the Marlins.
Gets Kantu on a breaking ball, and it's 0-1. Dearborn, Michigan.
Rich, remember when you were talking about the Teixeira deal and you mentioned Jared Saltalamacchia out of Royal Palm High School? Hit a grand slam last night for the Texas Rangers. Their 7-2 win in Seattle.
You hope for the Braves that trade doesn't turn into a Derek Lowe type trade, the one that was a colossal disaster for Seattle when they sent Lowe and Varitek for Heathcliff Slocum. It's not like Lowe and Varitek had significant careers after that, or anything.
We've kind of heard conflicting stories about how that deal came down, and you always wonder.
Well, you know, the odd
about that situation. Yeah.
The odd thing was Seattle needed bullpen help. And they made 2 trades that day. They also
Heathcliff Slocum at the time, a hard thrower, a good bullpen guy.
Yep. Pitch misses outside. 2-2 with 2 outs
and a couple of young players, Varitek and Lowe.
I think Seattle on the same night traded Jose Cruz Jr. for Mike Timlin with the Toronto Blue Jays. 2-2. Breaking ball. Kantu was on it, drives it to left. Anderson goes back, reaches and won't get it. And that's why Derek Lowe was so upset in walking Hanley Ramirez.
Have a night, Jorge Kantu. 5 RBIs, 2 doubles, a home run, and a big 2-out base hit. Slider, that one stayed middle of the plate, and he is hot. Crushed this ball over Anderson's head. And Hanley, because he was on the move, able to come in and score easily.
So Kantu, the Braves have 8. The Fighting Cantus have 5. 5 RBIs for Kantu.
Fourth time in his career that Jorge Cantu's had a 5 RBI game. Second time this year.
Baker. And again, we brought it up an inning, 2 innings ago. The Marlins don't have to get them all back at once. If they can just cobble together a couple runs here, a run there, and now they're within 3. Baker drives it right center field and deep and off the warning track, and it bounces into the seats, or is it's a double. Baker, I thought I saw it bounce out, and then I looked at Baker, and he didn't stop at second, and I thought maybe I had missed it, but Baker was trying to. I don't think Baker saw it land.
Yeah, he started to go into the trot, but I was really amazed and interested at the defensive alignment the Braves had for Baker. They're not expecting him to pull a ball in that area. Francoeur playing shallow and playing over in the gap, and this ball was well over his head. So Baker takes a peek right about there. He thinks it's out. He thinks it's a home run. No, Baker, it bounced out. But there are those 2 runs that we talked about, and the Marlins have gotten them quick, and they've done it with 2 out.
And they may get into the Braves bullpen sooner rather than later. O'Flaherty and Carlisle.
It's like that crazy game they had in Washington last night, the Astros and the Nationals back and forth. And this one's not going to get suspended because I don't think it's going to rain. But they ended up a suspended game, a 10-10 tie.
And the problem was it started during the day.
With the day game, yeah.
Ugla takes outside.
Man, might as well go for all of it right here. Ugla puts one in the seats. It's a tie game.
Ugla nearly tore himself in 2 with that swing. Jorge Kantu has driven in 5. John Baker has added on. And Uggs hits a scorcher that Escobar robs. How many times have we seen it over the last 3 weeks? Ugla hits a seed. Inning is over, but the Fish get 2. Kantu. And then Baker.
It down to 8-6. We're out here in the left field stands with some big Marlin fans, including, I don't know, Mr. Ballhead. Now, he does not want to reveal his true identity. What do we call you?
They call me the Teal Monster.
The Teal Monster. This, by the way, guys, is made out of paper mache. He used one of those beach balls as kind of a mold for it, and it's pretty sturdy. How long have you been wearing this?
Well, I made it all off season. I've been wearing it since opening day this year. It's going to make it through the year. We got a fin being made for it. So we'll be ready for, some road trips.
All right, if you would do me the honor of holding this. Now, guys, when Craig goes to New York, he's got to do a comparison. It's unofficially, wait a minute, let me try this again. We apologize for that. 48 and a half inches. 48 and a half inches. So when Craig, he's got Craig beat, he just said. When Craig goes to Citi Field, he's got to compare that to Mr. Met and maybe even Mr. Red. Guys, back to you.
Here's Escobar. He takes it down low. That's why Frank never made it as a Taylor.
Well, another lefty. We saw Dan Meyer. Now it's Rainiel Pinto's turn. Good numbers. Good fastball to the aggressive hitter, Yunel Escobar. 30 RBIs for Jorge Kantu, second in the National League. Pujols has 35. 35 because Pujols has homered tonight for the Cardinals.
Escobar, Chipper, and Garrett Anderson. We were talking about, you brought up Jared Saltalamacchia, and that was a big deal for the Braves when they sent him to Texas to get Teixeira. Didn't keep Teixeira, flipped him back to the Angels. And of course, Lowe was involved in a blockbuster type deal. As he and a young Veritex, nice play by Kantu at first base.
Well, that was. It's not an easy play for a first baseman. Dan Uggla came in and flipped that ball. You know, you kind of lose sight of the ball as a first baseman. And then he has to move to his right. And the whole key there is not to stretch out too soon. Wait to see where the ball is, then go stretch to the ball.
You brought up a good point during the break that I wanted you to tell our audience, and it was.
Well, every ball club, if they go back in their annals, we need Ken Burns to throw out the word annals. But if you go back, every ball club has had a trade or two like that. And every ball club has had an almost trade or two like that. And the one that came to my mind was back in the late 60s. The Montreal Expos had a #1 draft pick left-handed pitcher by the name of Baylor Moore. The Dodgers wanted Baylor Moore. They were going to give him, and I heard this through an old Dodgers scout, they were going to give the Expos 3 minor league players. And I remember 2 of them were Ron Cey and Davey Lopes. I don't remember who the third one was, but it was a talented Dodger player. And the Expos said, no, we want to keep Baylor Moore. And so they turned that deal down. So those things happen all the time. A lot of it you just don't hear about.
And of course, you know, every team has that trade a young prospect for something you need in a pennant race. As Pinto strikes out Chipper Jones.
Kind of carved up Chipper pretty well that time.
Yeah. I mean, there's always the John Smoltz type trades when he came from the Tigers. Was it Doyle Alexander?
Doyle Alexander, and for a while that was a great trade for Detroit because Doyle Alexander did a tremendous job down the stretch for the Tigers.
Who was Jeff Bagwell traded from the Red Sox to the Astros?
Larry Anderson.
Larry Anderson.
Larry Anderson.
So, I mean, if we went through every team, we could probably find one of those trades. We told you how Lowe and Veritek got from Seattle to Boston. Those 2 teams made a trade a few years later. The Mariners sent a kind of a utility outfielder, Darren Bragg, who didn't play long in the big leagues, for a broken down lefty named Jamie Moyer. And that turned out okay for that franchise.
Yeah, Darren Bragg played a little bit there, went on to Texas, played a little bit with the Rangers.
Was it, and in the 60s, wasn't it the Lou Brock trade? Wasn't he a Cub?
Yeah, I believe for Cardinals for Ernie Broglio, right-handed pitcher. He was a serviceable pitcher at the time.
Fastball's up, and it sends Anderson down to first. He'll bring up Prado. The Marlins have drawn within 2 here in the 6th inning. Shows you how inexact it can be judging talent in baseball, and with the draft coming up here in a month. We made the point the other night that of all the major sports, the baseball draft has to be the toughest to identify talent, select talent. I mean, the first guy to get to the big leagues from the '06 Marlins draft was tonight's starter, Graham Taylor, and that was a good draft. I mean, the Marlins have some prospects from that '06 draft.
You were looking at some of the minor league numbers from some of the AAA players. Some good numbers. Guys are off to good starts.
And of course, the Marlins AAA affiliate now in New Orleans. There's a one hopper up the middle. Hanley's got it. Flip on to Ugler.
We'll get back to those numbers.
We'll go to New Orleans when we return. Braves on top, 8-6. frozen in time. It's this second inning. Emilio Bonifacio frees it. Got to pick up the bunt and throw out Derek Lowe. And that little mistake would open the door, and the Braves would walk through with 4 unearned runs.
Yeah, I think you could see the head lift up just a little bit as Bonifacio peeked at the runner. And, in fact, the runner was Derek Lowe. He had plenty of time to make that play.
Well, as you can see, the Braves jumped out to a big lead. The Marlins have brought themselves within 2, and they have knocked Derek Lowe from the ball game. Buddy Carlisle. As Hermida leads it off, Cody Ross. And then the pitcher spot due up next.
The Marlins did see Buddy Carlisle in that series in Atlanta.
Leo Nunez in the bullpen. Hermida slices that one foul. We were talking about some of the players having good seasons, good starts to their seasons. Chris Coughlin hitting at .326.
Got to see him a lot in the spring.
Has a good on-base percentage and has stolen 9 bases. Michael Ryan continues to have a good year down there. He's hitting .352. 0-2 pitch. Misses inside. Gabby Sanchez off to a quick start. .345, 4 homers, 16 RBIs. Frank, you've got an update on Sanchez and his status?
Yes, it's unfortunate too, Rich. In my travels around the ballpark tonight, I saw Gabby Sanchez on crutches. Now, he was not allowed to tell me what the injury was, but just the fact that he's back here in South Florida, where I'm assuming he's going to be checked by the Marlins team doctors, leads you to believe that it's not an insignificant injury. And he was off to such a good start after the rough spring training. But Gabby is on crutches, and we'd have to assume he's going to be out for a somewhat, or at least a relative, extended period of time. So it was not a sight I wanted to see, but Gabby was on crutches tonight.
Well, that's too bad. Off to that good start, too.
Jeremy Hermida has hit the ball well 3 times tonight. Remember, he hit that shot that Prado snared in the 4th, so he's 2 for 3.
Good solid swing, and this is what Jeremy's at his best. There's another good swing from Cody Ross.
Ross puts that one in the gap, left center. Hermida around second, on his way to third, and the Fisher set up at the corners. Nobody out in the 6th.
But back-to-back 2 good swings. Jeremy Hermida, Cody Ross. Cody 1 for 2 now, and good to see those 2 guys swing the bat that way. And also, you know, the guys we talked about, Cameron Maben, who's sitting in the 2nd spot, he's got a base hit tonight, scored a couple of runs, and lined out. So he swung the bat well, too.
Ross glowed. Strike from Carlisle. Lowe went the first 5 innings. Look at that. As a pinch hitter, the Marlins have been served well by Glode, Wes Helms. Even Alfredo Amezaga has chipped in as a pinch hitter this year.
Yeah, Ross Glode 4 for 10. Wes Helms 5 for 9 coming off the bench.
Amezaga has a couple of pinch hits. At the corners.
That is good pitch. Come off the bench, and sometimes you just get that one, and he had a good one and fouled it straight back.
Carlisle part of a bullpen that had a rough start. They've tightened up a little bit as of late. It's in. Braves were hoping that with an improved starting staff, they wouldn't have to lean so much on the middle relief and they could get to the back of the bullpen. Guys like Soriano and Gonzalez a little sooner.
Yeah, Gonzalez with 3 saves, Soriano with a couple.
Glode hits a high pop, shallow center. Schaefer makes the catch. And so there's 1 out, and up comes Bonifacio. Pitch Friday the 15th. Manny Ramirez and the Dodgers at 7:10. CBS 4 for 54 pack, the way to go. You can play Billy Bingo for your chance to win one of 100 authentic Manny Ramirez gloves. 1-877 Marlins.
Pretty good pitch by Carlisle. He tied up Glode just enough that he couldn't extend and get that fly ball a little deeper. Now it's essential that the Marlins get at least 1 run out of this with 1st and 3rd and 1 out now after that 1st and 3rd no out situation. Carlisle more apt to go up with fastballs than Derek Lowe was pitching to Bonifacio.
Linfield's back for 2. Bonifacio's a tough man to double up. So if Emilio could just put it in play and start running, there's a chance to get the run. Drops down the bunt, and it rolls foul.
We've seen the Marlins in this game make mistakes, base running mistakes, an error. And this is a key situation. You've got to get at least 1 run here in this inning. If you come up empty, 1st and 3rd, nobody out, it's a real boost to the Atlanta Braves.
Went after the high fastball.
And the Braves are an out away from getting out of this.
So here comes Maben. Buddy Carlisle, following the scouting report that we've seen, just about everybody as they try to get Bonifacio out, is as the at-bat goes along, continue to elevate the fastball.
Climb the ladder.
Maben is lined out, has an infield single, and has walked. One and one. The inning opened with singles by Hermida and Ross, putting runners at the corners. Two and one. What a difference this is for Cameron Maben, hitting second in front of Hanley Ramirez in this spot, as opposed to, say, hitting 8th with the pitcher on deck.
Yeah, and you'd probably have a pinch hitter, but a little difference with Hanley. So you would suspect that Cameron Maben would see a pretty good fastball to hit he'd rather face Cameron than that guy on deck, Hanley Ramirez.
Let's see what he gets. Fastball, Maben hits it in the air, out into left center field. Schaefer is there, and the Marlins waste a great opportunity. Still down by 2. Of the night. Which Marlins road trip would you most like to go on? Phillies and the Mets, Blue Jays, and the I can't get through this. Giants in Arizona, Padres and Dodgers. We had to explain what happened here in the booth. Tommy,
we had some pole issues in the booth.
I stepped out of the booth and the table nearly
came. Can't leave me alone.
The support, which is essentially a pole that holds the table up. How did you knock it off?
My foot hit it, I guess.
And I throw the headset back on, and all I hear is poll question. And I'm like, well, it's on the floor. Leo Nunez in the ball game.
That's a tough inning for the Marlins last inning because that's a real momentum breaker. Had a chance to at least pick up 1 run. First and third, nobody out, and could not get a run out of that.
Francoeur fouls it at the plate. Counts 0-2. The bullpen's
and the onus isn't on Cameron Maben.
No.
He's the last guy. He's up there with 2 out. Ross Glode, shallow fly ball, and the strikeout of Bonifacio. So he's the last guy. Always looks worse though, and he's the guy who gets booed. But
if you're Maben and you hit that ball with nobody out or 1 out, you've scored a run.
Yeah.
Marlins bullpen tonight has really picked it up. Dan Meyer, Reniel Pinto, and now Nunez. Bonifacio gets Francoeur here in the 7th. 2-run game.
Yeah, the bullpen's just given up a couple of hits, and that's it. 6 strikeouts. 5 from Dan Meyer. He was terrific. Meyer in 2 2/3 innings really bailed out Graham Taylor.
Nunez outside.
Gonna have to find out the whole story as to why David Ross ended up at Florida after he'd been at Auburn.
We don't have a lot of
sure, it has something to do with playing time, and yeah, we won't have a lot of time tomorrow
morning.
Yeah, let me rethink that. We'll see the Braves enough.
There's Moylan, the Australian. I'll tell you, Nunez came from the Kansas City Royals. They are one of the fun stories this year in baseball. Kansas City is 16-11. They've won 4 in a row going into play tonight. And they're up 8-0 in the 5th over Seattle.
So they came and played tonight a 1.5 lead over Detroit in that Central Division, American League.
Zach Greinke and Gil Mesh.
Greinke is just unbelievable. Greinke won his 6th game the other night. He's 6-0 with an 0.40 ERA.
Trey Hillman, their manager. We got a look at them last year, and they look like a team with young players. Hillman is a guy that has a track record of success in Japan. Line to right. Ross is there, and he makes the catch. All-Star balloting is here. Make sure you vote early and often for your favorite Marlin. The fans can help the Marlins get somebody in the National League roster for the All-Star game. Even Jeff Conine. It's so easy to vote. Look at Niner. He's looking for his own name, and he doesn't see it. He's confused.
An All-Star?
Yeah, an All-Star MVP. But no longer on the ballot. And if you want to go and vote right now, just log on to MLB.com, click on the All-Star ballot link, and you can do it electronically. You don't need one of those contraptions with the nails that they used to do in certain cities, and just press the ballot down and vote for all of the Cleveland Indians or all of the White Sox. I'm not sure which city. The rumor was that there were a couple of cities where that was a practice.
They used to bring in interns and just sit them down, and that's not right.
Really?
Oh yeah, just let them vote for as many times. No hanging chads.
See, I had not heard the intern story.
Yeah, that was before the computer stuff.
Yeah. Nunez lays waste to the Braves in the 7th with some flair. Taylor getting knocked around early. The Braves got some hits. The Marlins didn't make some plays, and he gave up 8 runs. Jorge Cantu, though, has done his best to keep the fish in this ballgame. A 3-run homer. An RBI double. How about another RBI double? Missed opportunity, 1st and 3rd, nobody out. Shallow fly ball. A punch out of Bonifacio. And Maven flies out, and that'll give a manager headaches. That's why the Fish right now are down 8-6. And at the bottom of the 7th, they still have 3 shots now against this Braves bullpen, but the Braves bullpen gets better as the game gets deeper. Although Moylan's ERA is up. We saw Jeff Bennett warming up earlier. He's been really good. Moylan has been touched up this year. But then you got Soriano, then you got Gonzalez. Braves going to make a defensive switch. Casey Kochman is very good at first.
So a double switch by Bobby Cox.
And here is Hanlon. Chopper, Escobar. Boy, he is a smooth operator out there at shortstop. Our Toyota trend. Marlins' current 4-game win streak against the Braves, 1 shy of the club record. That's amazing. The win streak, longest win streak against the Braves in club history is only 5.
Yeah, it's been a club over the years. It's always been tough on the Marlins.
Well, that's right. I mean, the 3
and of
games,
course, 14 straight division titles. They've been tough on a lot of teams.
and the 3-game sweep in Atlanta was the first ever by a Marlin club that this year. So here's Kantu. There's not much more that Kantu can do tonight. 2 RBI doubles and a 3-run homer. Moylan busting him inside. You could almost see Kantu cheat in the batter's box and almost back up away from the plate a little bit before that pitch.
A little grimace. That left hand still takes a beating and still bothers him on certain check swings or maybe reaching, playing first base.
Left it out over the plate, and Kantu pops it to right. Francoeur runs it down. 2 outs. Here comes Baker.
Still shaking. You can see him shaking that wrist as he heads back to the bench right now.
You know, I think that's going to happen all year. I mean, that's an injury that you need to just stop playing to let it heal. And obviously, Kantu isn't going to stop playing, and the Marlins can't afford to have him stop playing. That wrist may not stop hurting until spring training next year. Two 2-0. Baker an RBI double. That followed the Kantu double in the 5th. Ball stays down for Infante. And Peter Moylan works a 1-2-3-7 to the 8th we go. Michael. Mike Stanton. There's been a Chris Rietzma sighting on the show.
Yeah, those are some great names right there.
Just as middle relievers keep their team in the game, you two can stay in the game with Just for Men hair color.
It seemed like when the Marlins played the Braves, Mike Remlinger pitched in every game.
First AB for Kochman, and he lines one out to center. We check in with Frank Fort.
All right, guys, thanks very much. We're out here in the right field stands. You remember a couple years ago they started Uglies Uglies? Well, this year we've got Cody's Crew, these purple shirts. You can go online. Stand up, young man. There you go. Cody's Crew. It's got Cody's bald head right there with the eye black underneath. And you can go online, www.marlins.com/Cody, and you can buy this T-shirt and get a ticket out here in right field. And chances, it's every Wednesday home game, by the way, and chances are, too, that Cody is going to throw a ball up after warm-ups. In fact, the two young men right here got baseballs thrown up to them by Cody after the warm-ups at the start of the inning. So go online, Cody's Crew, out here in right, guys.
Yeah, that's great stuff.
Hey, Frank, when the weather gets hot, will Cody's Crew shave their head like Cody?
Well, this young man next to me has got kind of a mohawk here. So, and this guy, too, they've got the little mohawks here. So they're getting there toward the shaved heads.
Yeah, they got to check with Mom before they do that.
Yeah, exactly. I got to run that one past the parents, I think.
It's an acquired taste. All right, here's the 2-0 pitch from Nunez into his second inning in relief. Marlins bullpen outstanding. Dan Meyer, 2 2/3 innings. Reynel Pinto, an inning. And this is Nunez into his second inning. Infante is 2 for 3 in this ball game. Braves have 8 runs on 9 hits. Marlins 6 runs on 9 hits. A crowd of 12,725 on hand. And there's the back of the Braves bullpen starting to get loose.
Speaking of the back of bullpens, the back of the Mets bullpen, Frankie Rodriguez trying to nail down a 1-0 win for the Mets, pitching in the 9th inning against Philadelphia.
Three-2. Lost him. A 1-out walk. Here in the 8th, it brings up Yunel Escobar. Matt Stairs just flied out to center, and that game is over. Mets 1, Phillies nothing. Standings wise, that brings the Phillies back to the Marlins atop the East, but obviously the Fish need to rally here if they want a piece of first place.
And that win gives the Mets an even 500 record, 13-13.
Escobar up, but Milwaukee's all over Cincinnati, 10-0 in the bottom of the 5th. Actually, Brandon Phillips just homered, and it's 10-1. What a night Phillips had last night.
What a 2 games he had.
Yeah, defensively
he was impressive,
especially the first night, and then 6 RBIs in last night's game. But his home run, it's still 10-1 Brewers in the 5th. Escobar's foul tip hit everybody.
Boy, and he didn't hold back on the swing. He got down to one knee when he finished.
Cubs on top of Houston 4-1.
See where Lou Piniella took a little heat from their game yesterday. They lost to the Giants. Tim Lincecum beat the Cubs 6-2. But Lou had about 3 or 4 of his regulars out of the lineup, and instead of maybe just taking one, he had about 3 or 4 out of the lineup. And you know, his thought was, played a lot of games in a row, getting ready to go on the road. This gives my extra men some at bats. But some were questioning it because Lincecum was pitching for the Giants.
Well, I mean, if you stop and think about it, Ball in the air. Uggla's out. Maben's in. Maben's very good at this, as he's shown, coming in and taking charge. And that's a good sign for a young center fielder. I mean, if you think about it, if you're going to rest 1 or 2 regulars and you're facing Lincecum, why not rest 4 regulars?
And that was his thought. This way, you got a bunch of guys rested and ready for their road trip.
It's one of the things I love about him is that he doesn't really care what everybody thinks, and he's not afraid to do something like that. And they're up, you know, what are you going to do? They're up 5-1 right now in the 6th.
So far, it's worked.
Yeah. Chipper, couple hits. Runner goes. Fastball up and in. Baker's throw, not in time. Our Geico quote of the night from Chipper. Eventually, some good things have got to start happening. We can't be this unlucky this long.
Boy, Infante picking up his first steal this year, and he did it fairly easily. And that's the problem. By stealing, leaving first base open, the Marlins, instead of pitching to Chipper, would rather pitch to Garrett Anderson, even though Bobby Cox will still have the matchup in his favor. Anderson, a left-handed hitter. I would imagine this didn't happen to Garrett Anderson a lot in years in the American League with the Angels.
No, because he was usually right smack dab in the heart of the order for the Angels.
Boy, a guy who's just a few ticks under 300, a career 296 hitter. Garrett Anderson, 37 years old.
Mark Wiley knows about Garrett Anderson and the glory years in Cleveland when Mark Wiley was the pitching coach for the Indians, who would go to 2 World Series, including one against the Fish.
You know, we talked about Chipper Jones getting his 2300 hit tonight. Garrett Anderson came into this season with 2,368 base hits.
So in a 2-run game with 2 outs, Nunez is trying to keep it right there and give the Fish a shot at the end. Couple of Braves aboard. Anderson has driven in 3 tonight. There's his career numbers, 14 years with the Angels.
And I was just looking and figured they had matched up a little bit in the American League. Garrett Anderson against Leo Nunez, 3 for 3 with a double and a home run.
Here's the 1-1. That being said, would you rather pitch to Anderson or Chipper in this spot?
Chipper really had never faced him. Didn't see him in that series in Atlanta. That's a good question.
I mean, because
we all know what Chipper's done against the Marlins over the years.
No kidding. Rolled over on it. And now he is 3 for 4 in his career.
Freddie's the manager. He makes those decisions.
8-6 Atlanta. Fish are within 2, but they're running out of outs. Bottom of the 8th arrives. 8-6 Braves, and now the Braves get into finish the game mode in their bullpen with Soriano in the 8th.
Well, and you talked about it, Rich. You see the games, 12 games for Soriano, good numbers. The ERA at 1.5, and you get to some hard throwers, Soriano and then the lefty Mike Gonzalez. Soriano, good fastball and slider. Gonzalez can get a little wild, but you're right, time's running out, outs are running out.
Uggla up and in. Dan Uggla's 0 for 3, and yeah, he's in a slump, but he hit a scorcher that Escobar picked at short and threw him out at first. We talked with Jeff Conine on Marlins Live about that. As a hitter, how do you go through a stretch where you're hitting balls hard, but you're getting absolutely nothing to show for it? And it's not easy.
It's not easy. It becomes a mental grind.
Lindstrom getting ready. 3-0. Hermida and Ross, then the pitcher spot. That is a strike. Uggla off of Soriano, 2 for 5, and those 2 are home runs. That's a base hit.
And that's another hard hit ball.
So Uggla's got a hit.
And that snaps an 0 for 13, but you mix in during that 0 for 13 3 or 4 hard hit balls. So well done, Daniel, with that swing. And it brings the tying run to the plate.
Hermida. Jeremy drives one to center field. Schaefer back and makes the catch. Of course, Hermida involved in a play that really stings now. Back in that second inning, the Marlins had runners at first and second and nobody out. Graham Taylor was trying to bunt. He missed, and Herm got caught leaning at second base and was picked off. And the Marlins did not score that inning.
So it's one of those plays where, as a runner, yes, you try to anticipate, you try to lean and get as good a jump as you can, but you have to make sure that ball's dropped down on the ground first.
And of course, the Marlins had first and third and nobody out, and got nothing out of that in the 6th.
The Hermida at the top. He's trying to get that. There's the bunt. It's through the ball, and then Jeremy gets just too far off the bag.
Ross is 1 for 2. Has walked, struck out, and singled. Little breaking ball, and Ross broke his bat. And the count is 1-2. We invite you to spend your lunch hour with us. If you're watching on your computer, you can do that on your lunch break at work. If you're watching on your television, wherever you are. Tomorrow, 11:30 Eastern Time, we started with Marlins Live. And then Anibal Sanchez and Jair Jurgens will be out there pitching.
And it looks like we're going to have another gorgeous day.
A lot of school kids coming to the game. A lot of field trips. It's a weather day.
Weather day. And it's going to be a great weather day. We had weather day at Citi Field in New York. Who was the longtime, well-known weatherman who participated?
That's a Craig question.
Yeah, yeah.
Uggles at first. That's strike 3.
I think it was Mr. G. Cody had some pitches to hit during this at bat. That was just a perfect one, but he had some early on. He had a good fastball first pitch, and Soriano just made a perfect one there.
Helms now. Oh and 1. Helms hitting here in the 8th against Soriano, and you would expect it would be Gonzalez if it's still a 2-run game in the bottom of the 9th.
Jeff Conine possibly getting ready to hit against Soriano. Niner 4 for 6 with 2 home runs against Soriano.
He and Uggla have similar numbers. Uggs is now 3 for 6 with 2 homers. Soriano's always had an electric arm. It's keeping that arm and that shoulder and the elbow healthy. That has been the challenge.
You know, we talked about it earlier, the nice job that Wes Helms has done. 5 for 9 as a pinch hitter. And really, that's just a carryover from the job he did last year coming off the bench. "13 pitch hits, 9 pinch hit RBIs last year." Just nasty.
Down goes Helms, leadoff single, stays out there at first. To the 9th we go. A showdown between division rivals or Braves Phillies in Philadelphia. Fox Saturday Baseball returns this week. Special time of 3:30 following This Week in Baseball at 3 on Fox. First pitch swinging. And an out. Matt Lindstrom getting a quick out.
Yeah, the pinch hitter, Greg Norton, went after that first pitch fastball, and a quick out for Lindstrom.
Here's Frank Coor. in the spirit of keeping Matt Lindstrom sharp, he's in this ball game in the ninth. But I think for the Marlins as well, it illustrates the fact that they've had to go deep in their bullpen just to stay in this game.
And the unfortunate part is that bullpen has done that. The bullpen has done a great job tonight. Not allowed to run.
Unfortunate now. Marlins are hoping it's fortunate by the time the end is here.
5 2/3 innings. 6 innings now with the out that the bullpen has gone without giving up a run.
Fun to watch that because Francoeur loves high fastball.
He's not going to let that high fastball go by. Doesn't care if it's 98 miles an hour. Went up there again.
He couldn't lay off it again. Everybody okay?
Look at who was there to help John Baker, but Tim Cousins. Talked about Cousins and all the work he does in the minor leagues with the Marlins catchers. He's with the ball club for this series.
The most treacherous dugouts in baseball.
A lot of guys over there to help.
Francoeur stayed on the slider. Two outs. Marlins will have the top of their order: Bonifacio, Maben, and Hanley in the ninth.
And Bobby Cox will bring in his left-handed closer, Mike Gonzalez.
David Ross.
That's the one thing we've seen from Matt Lindstrom, I think, with more work and as he's used a little bit more, we've seen him more consistent with that hard slider. And that'll keep hitters honest when he uses that fastball.
One ball, one strike, two outs, ninth inning. One coming. Marlins off to Colorado after the game tomorrow. Boy, it'll be nice to get back home after the next road trip, because then everybody can settle in for a long homestand. Ten-game homestand awaits with some pretty good teams. The Dodgers and the Rays are coming. Arizona's scuffling a little bit right now. The Dodgers you would not put in the scuffling department.
No, they have a substantial lead right now. 5.5 game lead over the Giants. And they've gone 12-0 at Dodger Stadium.
Hopefully they will have lost a game by the time the Marlins get there, which is late July.
Hopefully. Hey, the matchups in Denver: Ricky Nolasco on Friday against right-hander Jason Hamill. Josh Johnson against lefty Jorge De La Rosa. And Chris Volstad and Aaron Cook in the Sunday game. That'll be a good matchup. A couple of good sinker ballers.
3-2. Schaefer, the young center fielder.
Number 24, center fielder, Schaefer.
Just to bring you up to speed on what's happened tonight. around baseball.
More rain in the Northeast, too.
Johan Santana is 4-1. K-Rod got the save. Mets beat the Phillies 1-0. The Phillies had 3 hits. The Mets had 2. Brandon Phillips is homered. We saw him last night, but it's not enough as Milwaukee is clobbering Cincinnati 10-2 in the 7th.
So Santana goes to 4-1 with an ERA right around 1. He might be under 1 now.
Aramis Ramirez is back. He's homered. 6-1 Cubs over Houston in the 7th. Right after our telecast, inside the Marlins, Andre Dawson, 21 years in the big leagues. Colorado right now is shutting out San Francisco 7-0. Ubaldo Jimenez is on the mound. He's dealing a 3-hit shutout. .98 on the fastball.
Tell you what, if Matt Lindstrom gets Schaefer, it'll be his 4th strikeout tonight. He will have struck out 14 times in his last 5 games.
Lindstrom taking a little bit too long for Schaefer. Bill, Marlin fans have seen it with Cameron Maybin and Emilio Bonifacio, young players trying to learn how to play at the big league level. Lindstrom struck him out. So Schaefer has struck out 4 times. The Marlins are 2 runs shy. Top of the order coming up. By Tobacco Free Florida. For more information, visit us on the web at tobaccofreeflorida.com. And by Dodge. Grab life by the horns. Gorgeous night in South Florida. 8-6. The Braves send their closer out. It's actually Mike Gonzalez. And the lefty goes to work on Emilio Bonifacio. Ball 1 high.
Well, another Tommy John surgery, and a guy who has dealt with many injuries over his career, but can get very erratic with his control. Not a lot of Marlins have track record against him, just a few at bats.
A lot of moving parts out there. Bonifacio is 0 for 4 with a strikeout.
There's that good live fastball from Gonzalez. Think he'll go up there again?
Well, if Bonifacio continues to swing at it, sure. Ross wants a fastball. Got it down. Gonzalez knocks it down and throws him out.
Yeah, just the difference of getting that down a little bit. Emilio has a better chance of making contact.
Here comes Maben. Maben 1 for 3. Has scored a couple of runs. It's been a night where the Marlins fell behind, had opportunities to get back, have used some of those. Others have slipped through their fingers. A night where Jorge Cantu has been a horse, as he has been throughout this early season.
Jorge Cantu has been the Marlins El Caballo tonight.
30 RBIs now for Cantu. 5 in tonight's game, and the Marlins would love to get him up to the plate with a runner on in the 9th. Maben goes after a fastball. It's 2-2. Gonzalez, who spent early parts of his career with the Pittsburgh Pirates and was a very good reliever there, but kind of was hidden in that bullpen because the Pirates weren't contending. Got him.
Well, he showed him that fastball and then just bent one in there to get Cameron to chase it. A good pitch by Gonzalez. Now, if the Marlins lose this game, it'll only be the second game they've lost this year when they've scored 6 runs or more. They lost that 8-6 game to the Cubs at Wrigley Field.
Our Land Rover extraordinary play of the night, brought to you by Land Rover, was this. An Ugla flip. Cantu sprawled on his face. First pitch to Hanley Ramirez is a ball. Or was it a strike? It was a strike. Mike Riley with a quick right hand, and it's 0-1. Hanley stepped out. There are 2 outs. The Marlins down a couple. Now Gonzalez a strike away with Cantu on deck.
Yeah, he can be tough, and you can see when he starts getting all of his pitches over. There are times he comes in and struggles with command. But tonight, he's on.
And he finishes the fish. He strikes out Hanley Ramirez. The Braves make those big early innings stand up. The Marlins bullpen outstanding tonight, but the Marlins a few opportunities that they let get by, and that proves costly tonight. Braves get game 1 of this 2-game series. They snap their 4-game losing streak. 8-6 the final.